Hey all y'all, it's Jocelyn here with the Queer Ass Trailer Trash channel, and today here in the Glade we are working on doing up some seedlings. So I am mixing a batch of my soil mix to get my little baby plants transplanted into some slightly bigger pots, and I will show you the mix up that I use to save a bunch of money on doing up my potting mix, because it's quite expensive if you buy it pre-made. But if you get the ingredients and then do it all up in bulk, it's cheap as dirt. Anyway, so here are the ingredients. Some people do it more complicated. I don't. This is peat moss, and my mix is going to be 3 parts peat moss. And my parts today, I'm using this number 2. I think it's 2-gallon bucket. Anyway, so there's going to be, you could use any size in these quantities. So 3 parts of sphagnum peat moss, and then we're going to do 2 parts of this here blended manure. And it has been screened and sterilized, and so it is all ready to use. And it's not going to have any sort of weed seeds or diseases or anything else that might challenge our seedlings. And then we have this here, and well, it says it is a bag of perlite. It's actually a 50-50 mix of perlite and vermiculite, because I had a half a bag each at the end of last season, so I just put them all together. And as a word of caution, don't breathe the dust from this stuff. It is very, very bad for you. Very fine particulates, it's stuck in your lungs. You don't want to breathe it. So I'm going to be wearing actually a little protective surgical mask when I'm mixing all this up, because I'd rather not have it buried deep in my lung tissues forever. And then here, finally, is our organic pelletized time-release fertilizer. And I'm just going to use one of these here yogurt containers worth of that. And that will just kind of slowly feed the seedlings over time. So we're going to get ourselves started. Here we got my little baby seedling startup center. I'll give you a quick little tour and explanation of. So, to start off with, I like to begin all of my little seedling starts in these many cell trays. Mostly because I only have so many little grow lights. You can get a lot of plants started with very little space. And I will show you how to separate these little guys. So you can take each one of these starts that begins in each one of these cells, and you separate them out, and you can transplant them into their own larger pot, and they will just take off from there. And then, depending on how much room I have, I might have to start running them in and out. But odds are good that the temperature outside is enough that I can leave the kale at least, and the chard, and maybe the lettuce. I can just keep them in the greenhouse from now on once I pot them up, because they're a hardier plant, and they don't mind a little bit of overnight chill in a way that the tomatoes and peppers, they don't like. But also, I have this second layer that I didn't have last year. So this one I made, and the other one I bought. But these are just little, they're called Sun Blaster, and it's known as a T5 grill light. They're just very little, and so I built this, and now we'll have double the capacity that I did last year, so I can grow all of my tomatoes and peppers indoors. And I'm going to be starting my squash and my cucumbers very, very soon. So I will be doing that in here as well. And I'm going to have all the room in the world. And to begin with, when I'm just starting off my seeds, I like to buy one of these here Seedlings starter mixes. And they're kind of expensive, but it's worth it because seeds are quite fragile. And so when you use this mix, you're guaranteed to have a nice base to start out with. And this has almost like no fertilizer in it. So that's the other reason I like to transplant them up into a larger pot once they have sprouted up and are doing pretty well, because they quickly run out of food. And then you have to either do a fertilizer with the liquid watering, or, you know, put them into some different soil. So it's just what I begin with. I have now made it back to the greenhouse, and the process of doing all of these seedlings up continues. So next stage, I got my new cells here sitting empty, and I got my freshly mixed soil mix all sitting here ready to go. And it's very dry, and that's real good when you're mixing stuff up because it allows you to get it nicely homogenized without too many clumps. But if you put it super dry into your containers and then try and water it, often what happens is you're just going to wet the top inch or two maybe, and the bottom stays dry. So what I like to do is just really soak the soil in the bucket and then put it in here. And you can then water it once you've transplanted the little seedlings in there, and that water will make it all the way to the bottom because it's already damp too. So when this stuff is dry, it's a little bit hydrophobic, so it's much easier to just soak it in the bucket first. So away we go. You don't want to make it a full-on mud pie or nothing, but just mix it up real good. Bust it on down. Becky was making some dirt biscuits. Alright, great. And then you can transfer that into your new pots. And once I get it full to the tops like this, then I can give them a bit of a bounce. And that will settle it well enough and make it so that any of the air pockets that might be in there work themselves out. Now we got these all looking, yeah, roughly good enough-ish. Gonna take the water, we're gonna turn it to shower. Just give everybody a drizzle. Drizzle, drizzle, drizzle. Now when you're transplanting, one of the best things you can do to avoid stress and transplant shock is to just make sure that there is lots of water and no air pockets. I think I'm gonna start out with my kale and my broccolis, ones that are big enough anyway. And we begin. It's the trick. You make your holes for your transplants to go, and when you're doing this, you're testing. Oh yeah, that's some soggy dirt. You have a handy bowl here. I like to fill this up with some water. And I like to make sure that what I'm transplanting is real wet too. That really makes it a lot easier to get these out of the pack. When they're dry, they somehow far more stubborn. What do we got here? Got, ooh, some broccoli. So, as you see, got some root development already. Nothing crazy. That's about the right time to do this because you're not going to have to fight them too much. They haven't started to wrap up amongst themselves, and it is wet. But what I like to do, you just kind of roll them between your hands like this, let the dirt fall off, and that's gonna kind of almost separate these out for you. And then there you go, you got one and you got two. And you take this little guy here without trying to mess with his roots too much, but you'd be surprised what these things can tolerate. I have not been always quite so careful in my past, and usually I have okay results. There you are. I can just scoop up some of that dirt. At the end, if I need to, I can come around with a little more soil, top that up. But especially when you're using these, you got almost a full one, you're not going to need quite so much dirt. Just plunk that in there, and you can bury the stem deeper than it was before. Like, no stress about that. They don't mind. Hardy little kales. Broccolis. Brassicas. It was one wild plant, and then we messed with them genetically. Just with our special breeding tactics. And if you want to get these little guys out, one of the things, lift it up, just squeeze it like a little udder. You're milking a cow, and there goes pop. Pop goes the broccolis. And then we do the roll out. And then can kind of shake it a bit. And if you dunk it, if they're kind of being annoying, you dunk it in the water. Look at that. There you go. There's all that dirt gone. And they just completely come apart so easily. And you can just, 1. I'll get that root all the way down at the bottom. 2. 3. There we go. It's just that easy, you know? Just gonna take a little handful and sprinkle some on top here. Just fill those in. That's a rock. And then I'll give these guys another little sprinkle. And that's called watering them in. And then I'll repeat for all of these guys, because I have so many seedlings. I always get a little bit carried away. So just like that. Voila. Here we have our little repotted kale babies, and I guess there's also some broccoli and some cabbages in here, and they're underneath that light that I built. They are happy here. They're not gonna be inside the little grow shack for too long, because I gotta do the tomatoes up tomorrow, or maybe in a couple days. I don't know. But that will mean that these ones will have to get pushed back out to the greenhouse, but that'll be fine. They're tough. And they'll have at least a couple of days in here to just really get a good thriving start, and just settle into their new pots. Let their roots settle in. So, no stress, low pressure. They're going to thrive, all right? So, that's it for today's episode. I have much more to do, much more to film. I'm sure I will in the coming days. Stay tuned. Like, subscribe, do that YouTube shit that people always tell you to do and I always forget. But if you want, obviously. But till next time, keep it real, take care of each other, take care of yourselves. Bye!